I really am tired of making these videos where I cry. So I'm not going to cry, but I am going to say there are some things that if you have not lived in America, if you have never lived as an other, that you cannot fully understand. And while no one says looting is okay, no one says setting fires is okay, no one thinks that's acceptable, but at some level, when you're American and you're looking at these, you can kind of understand why. Welcome to City English. I'm Cherry. City, C.I.T.Y, stands for Can I Teach You? Can I teach you has two meanings. One meaning is permission. May I teach you? Is it okay with you? The other meaning is ability. Can I teach you? Do I have the skills? Welcome to City English. Welcome to City English, which has become a crisis channel. Who knew? I did a video about Donald Trump's impeachment. 1,800,000 cases ago, I did a video on why America was screwed when it came to coronavirus. And now I'm here to talk to you about race riots. It's been a great year. So let's get to the main topic. So let's first address the elephant in the room. In case you have not noticed, I am Black. I am an African American. I've asked my Korean friends about the difference between Black and African American, and I've gotten some interesting answers. So now is as good a time as any to explain. Black means you are of African descent, meaning your ancestors come from Africa. So you can be Nigerian American, you can be Jamaican Canadian, or Ugandan Australian and Black. You can even be from Cuba or the Dominican Republic. You can be Latino and Black because you have some ancestry from Africa. African American means someone who is descended from slaves in America. So when slaves came over and they had children and children and children, so I'm African American. That means I don't know where my home country is. I don't know where I come from. I only know that I am American. And so that kind of makes things different because if you are, for example, Nigerian American and you came over as an immigrant or as the child of an immigrant, then you have kind of a secondary culture or you have a connection to your home that a lot of African Americans don't have because we don't really know where we come from. So now that you know the difference between African American and Black, I will probably use them interchangeably. Okay. Let's start with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the president, and he has been a divisive president from the beginning. He is very much us versus them. And so liberals and progressives versus conservatives, Democrats versus Republicans. He has no desire to unite or bring together the country. So over the last 3 years, the country has been very divided. And there were a few things that Donald Trump has done, which even if he wanted to unify the country, it would be, or unite the country, it would be very difficult for him. Back when he first became president, there was a protest, a Black Lives Matter protest, and it was Charlottesville. And so the people protesting against racism were on one side, and white supremacists were on the other side. White supremacists hate Black people, hate Latinos, hate Asians, hate anyone who's not white. And Donald Trump said, there are good people on both sides. white supremacists are good. Hating Jews is good. That's not good. Then there was a football player, Colin Kaepernick, and Colin Kaepernick wanted to protest. And so he decided that instead of saying the national anthem during football games, he would sit or he would kneel. And so he was basically silently protesting, not saying anything, not doing anything, just showing his objection to the way Black men and women are treated by police. And Donald Trump called him a son of a bitch. Said he was a son of a bitch and needed to be fired.
Wouldn't you love to see one of these NFL owners, when somebody disrespects our flag, to say, get that son of a bitch off the field right now, out, he's fired. He's fired!
So, silent protesting is wrong. Remember that. A few weeks ago, people were protesting coronavirus lockdowns, particularly white people. They said that the government didn't have a right to tell them to stay inside. And so they went to different places, and in particular, they went to Michigan. They went to a government building. They brought their guns. Police did nothing. They stood there with their guns in a government building, and Donald Trump told the governor of that state of Michigan, you should negotiate with them. Silently protesting, bad. Protesting at a government building with guns, okay. What's the difference? Black, white. In Donald Trump's government, there are no Black people. There's one Black person. And Donald Trump uses a lot of coded language. If you hear words like urban, that means Black. And so he thinks of Black people as being poor or uneducated or all living in the city. And so when he speaks about Black people, he speaks about us as if we're a monolith, as if we are all the same. And he even once said, my African American. My means something that I own. So my African American is very offensive to people descended from slavery.
We had a case where we had an African American guy who was a fan of mine. Great fan, great guy. In fact, I want to find out what's going on with him. You know what look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. So we have an African American guy at one of the rallies a month ago. And he's sitting there behaving. We have tremendous African American support. The reason is I'm going to bring jobs back to our country. We're going to bring jobs back. The inner cities of our country have been run by the Democratic Party for more than 50 years. Their policies have produced only poverty, joblessness, failing schools, and broken homes. Look how much African American communities have suffered under Democratic control. To those I say the following: what do you have to lose by trying something new like Trump? Taken away from. I say it again, what do you have to lose? Look, what do you have to lose? You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs, 58% of your youth is unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose?
When Black people were brought to America as slaves, we were property, not fully human. In fact, in the documents of the founding of the nation, Black people are considered 3/5 of one person. One of the reasons we have a very strange election system instead of having one man, one vote is because slaves There were so many slaves, but not as many white people, and the white people didn't want to be taxed and blah, 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 blah. So it was negotiated that Black people would be 3/5 of a person. When slavery ended in 1865, that did not mean there was equality. Um, when my grandmother was born in the 1930s, it was still basically okay to kill a Black person. Nobody cared. When my mother was born in the 1960s, segregation was still legal, separate but equal. Your school for white people, your school for Black people. When I was born in the 1980s, things were better, but it was still, not as many opportunities for Black people. It hasn't been that long that Black people have been considered equal. And that means that for a lot of people, Black people are less than. Black people are not equal. There are a lot of stereotypes about what it means to be Black: lazy, stupid. There's a kind of idea that Black people are overly sexual or violent. So there are these stereotypes about what it means to be a Black person, and they haven't gone away. And America exists on stereotypes. This is what these people are. This is what these people are. And one of the biggest problems is that white people are at the top. They have a privilege, and they set minorities against each other. So Asian people are considered model minorities. Asian people are so smart, and they work so hard, and they try to be American. Why can't Black people be more like Asians? And what has ended up happening is that, maybe not consciously, but subconsciously, all of the minority groups are fighting against each other instead of fighting against white people. We could go back. So let's just look at this year. We could go back and look at, Rodney King or Tamir Rice, or we could go back to the 60s and the 40s and Emmett Till. We could go back, but just looking at this year, February of this year, there was a young man named Ahmaud Arbery, and he was jogging, a young Black man. He was jogging. He didn't have a weapon on him. He hadn't committed a crime. He was just jogging, and people felt he was jogging in the wrong place. They felt like he was thinking of committing a crime. So these two men got their guns, got in their truck, and basically drove until they found him. And when they found him, they told him to stop. He didn't stop because it's two white men holding guns, and they shot and killed him. This was videotaped. The police had the video, but no one had seen the video until May. Once the public saw the video, the two men were arrested. He was shot in February. They were arrested in May. There were 73 days where nothing happened. And the reason nothing happened is because no one knew. But as soon as there was a video, they had to arrest them because it was very obvious that there was a crime. And this father and son that shot him, the father was a former police officer. So that happened at the beginning of May, where that video was exposed. Earlier this week, there was a video, Amy Cooper in Central Park. She had her dog off of a leash, and the law says your dog should be on a leash. This Black man asked her to put her dog on a leash, and she refused, and she took out her phone and said, "I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to tell them that an African-American man is threatening my life."
Please don't come close to me.
Sir, I'm asking you to stop recording.
Please don't come close to me.
Please take your phone off.
Please don't come close to
And
me.
I'm taking pictures calling the cops.
Please call the cops. Please call the cops.
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. I'm sorry, I'm in the Ramble, and there is a man, African American, he has a bicycle helmet. He is recording me and threatening me and my dog.
He had not threatened her life, but she knew that as a white woman, those words to the police put that man in danger. And that same day, George Floyd is at a store and they call the cops because they think he's using a fake $20 bill. The cops stop him and they kneel on his neck, his back, and his legs for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 3 men kneeling on him on the street for almost 9 minutes. Of those 8 minutes and 46 seconds, he did not have a pulse for 2 minutes and 53 seconds. They knew he didn't have a pulse, but they didn't get off of him. This was all filmed on video, and nothing happened. Why is it that nothing happens? No arrests, no prosecution, no dealing with it. Why is it okay to just kill Black people? So Black people went out and they started to protest. And remember that silent protests are wrong when you're Black, and marching protests are wrong when you're Black, and violent protests are wrong when you're Black. Everything you do is wrong when you're Black in America. Not just in America, all over the world, because American media is exported all over the world. So as much as I love living in Korea, and I have had some of the most amazing experiences of my life here, there are still some very specifically American ideas about Black people that exist in Korea. But that's a whole different video. So, how did protests become riots? The layers of anger combined with what's happening with coronavirus have made for very, very angry Americans. Let me explain. People have been locked down in their homes, and this was the first week that people were free to go outside. That's first. Second, because of coronavirus, 40 million more people are unemployed, and the government isn't giving them any extra money. So you have people who have no jobs and no money, and they're worried about their future. That's number 2. Because of coronavirus, it has been recommended that you wear a mask out in public. Covering half of your face gives you more anonymity than you might have had before. That's number 3. It was a perfect storm for chaos. And so the protesters are not necessarily the looters. They're not necessarily the rioters. But all of this is happening together. And so the protest was a chance for people to take advantage of the situation. So not everyone who's doing the looting is there for the right reasons, and not everyone who's doing the looting is Black. It is a chance to take advantage. They're looting. And here's what else makes it very strange. Some of these fires that have been set by white supremacists. White people who hate Black people and would like there to be a war, would like Black people to be hated, would like Black people to be disappeared, are inside of those riots making Black people look bad. The protesters have gone out, and the result is that the police, the American police, are being extremely heavy-handed. Pepper spray, rubber bullets, arresting journalists. So you go out to say police brutality is bad, and the response by the police is to brutalize you.
We got plenty of time here.
Are you okay? I'm getting shot! I'm getting... Katie, are you okay?
Get the fuck off! Get the fuck off! Don't fucking touch me either. Fuck you! What the fuck you gonna do, man?
Nothing.
Hey, I'm leaving.
He's not doing anything! Peaceful protest!
Get the fuck off! Go! Go!
And the reason why Black people in particular are so angry is because we've said for years we're treated differently. And people say, no, it's not about race. No, it's not about race. We're always told it's not about race. But when certain things only happen to you and you happen to have a certain skin color, it most definitely is about race. I'm American. I was born in America. My mother was born in America. My grandmother was born in America. My great-grandmother was born in America. My great-great-grandmother was born in America. I don't know any other country, but within my own country, I'm not considered enough. I'm not considered American. I'm somehow different. I'm somehow wrong. I'm somehow unacceptable in the only country I've ever known. For what reason? I was born brown. Did I choose to be born brown? No. Have I ever done anything wrong? No. I've never committed a crime. I've never smoked a cigarette. I've never said a bad word in my life. But when people look at me because of my color, somehow that makes me wrong. And when you live that life, when you have to always think about what color you are, if you're in the right place and the wrong color, it's a very difficult existence. And so while I will never say it's okay to loot, I will never say it's okay to be violent, I cannot say that I don't understand. Because there are times when I feel so angry. There are times in Korea when I feel so angry, when I read about job posts, looking for a white American female. I'm American. Oh, my color. I'm sorry, I can't date you because you're Black. Oh, my color. And anyway, so when you're wondering why is this happening in America, you have to realize it's deep. It's deep and it's hundreds of years long, and there's no one who can unify and unite the country. People, for some reason, thought that Obama's election somehow meant that America was equal. They somehow think that Martin Luther King's speech made things better. It's a very idealistic thought, but it's not a very realistic thought. So, my country's on fire. And because of the protests, so many people are about to get coronavirus. It's about to get ugly. I would like to say that I won't be back because there will be no more crises in America. But I have a bad feeling there will be more crises in America, and Crisis English will be back.